All right, let's go ahead and get started. It is a couple minutes after the top of the hour. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from today, and welcome to our Introduction to Atlassian Analytics webinar. We're so glad you're able to join us today for this overview of Atlassian Analytics. My name is Brad Wood. I'm a senior consultant and Atlassian certified professional with Valiantys, and we are an Atlassian Platinum Solutions partner. And today I'm going to walk you through Atlassian Analytics to highlight many of its strengths, its capabilities, use cases. We'll look through the UI a little bit. We'll talk about how this product works and what it's intended to do. And we will do all that in the course of about an hour. So a little bit about Valiantys. Like I mentioned, we're a Platinum Solutions partner of Atlassian, and we offer consulting and licensing services across the entire Atlassian suite of products for organizations of all shapes and sizes, anywhere in the world, and for any platform, including cloud and data center, with extensive insight and understanding of Atlassian tools, undiluted focus and skill sets, and proven capability at every level. And you can see some of our accomplishments here on this slide. We're 100% dedicated to the Atlassian ecosystem here at Valiantys. We are a 13-time Atlassian Partner of the Year. We've worked with, I think this is over 6,500 of the global Fortune 500 companies or organizations here at Atlassian. We also have a full stack development center that works on custom solutions and integrations for your Atlassian tools. We are Atlassian's first global partner, and we provide 24/7 coverage with over 600 team members here at Valiantys. Some of the services we provide, I mentioned a couple of them already, but consulting, licensing, integration and development, managed services, and training, just like this webinar, to name a few. And you can find more information on the services we provide at valiantys.com/services. So just a little bit more about training. So in addition to webinars like this webinar that you are joining currently or viewing on YouTube, perhaps, we also have extensive training classes on other Atlassian products, like our Jira Software, Confluence, and Jira Service Management boot camps. These are multiple day courses, and they're focused on retention and are interactive workshops designed to leave you confident in your understanding and use of the tools and processes. You can find all of that information on our upcoming boot camps and webinars by visiting valiantys.com/training. And in addition, we even have a half-day analytics quick start course that is a deep dive into configurations within analytics. That's also listed on our training website. And then lastly, a quick plug for our YouTube channel for even more Atlassian focused content. So tips and tricks, product updates, recordings of previous webinars, and a whole lot more. And we do have an analytics playlist or section within our YouTube channel that's got some other topics that we won't discuss in today's webinar, but do encourage you to check those out on YouTube. All right, so here's our agenda for today's webinar. We are doing the introduction currently. We're going to mention or, discuss a little bit of what is analytics, what is Atlassian Analytics, who can benefit from using it. Well, then we'll talk about the data lake. So where does the data come from and how is it connected to the tool? We'll talk about dashboards. So how can we visualize the data once it's connected? We'll talk about charts. So how can we filter the data to provide useful insights? Sharing, how can we share the data from analytics with the appropriate audience? We'll talk a little bit about permissions, so who can perform which functions within analytics, and then we'll talk about exports, so how can we export the data from analytics to another location. And then if time allows at the end of the hour, we will do a little bit of Q&A. Do encourage you to put questions in the chat and keep your eye on the chat as well. There'll be some handy links in there, like the training website, the YouTube channel. All of that stuff will be in the chat. And feel free to just add your questions there as they come up during the presentation, and I will answer those to the best of my ability as time allows at the end of this presentation. All right, so what is Atlassian Analytics and who can benefit from it? So Analytics is Atlassian's data visualization and reporting tool, It can pull data from Atlassian products through the Atlassian data lake connected to Atlassian cloud sites. It is available only at the enterprise tier in Atlassian cloud sites. I will mention that if you have multiple Atlassian products, only one of those needs to be at the enterprise tier in order to access analytics for all of your products. So let's say you've got Jira, Confluence, JSM, only one of those three products would need to be at the enterprise level, and then you can utilize analytics across all of those products. Atlassian Analytics is powered by the Atlassian Data Lake, which connects to, like I mentioned, Jira Software, JSM, Jira Work Management, Jira Product Discovery, Confluence, and even some operations data coming from your operations and alerts in Jira Service Management. It can also connect to Jira Align via the Enterprise Insights feature. This does require Enterprise Insights to be installed on your Jira Align site. It can also connect to third-party non-Atlassian data sources such as Snowflake, Microsoft SQL Server, and more. And it can also push data to third-party apps as well. And each Atlassian product is going to have its own set of tables and columns in the Atlassian data lake that users can choose from to create charts and dashboards, group and manipulate the visualization of data within those charts and dashboards, and we'll look at how all that's configured here in just a little bit. Atlassian Analytics does provide a number of out-of-the-box templates for both dashboards and charts, intended for a variety of reporting use cases, including scaled agile teams, DevOps, IT service management, marketing, HR, etc. There really are a large number of templates, and that list is constantly growing. Users can also create custom dashboards and charts via the user-friendly configuration method known as visual mode or visual SQL, or you can use SQL itself for more complex queries. If you know how to write SQL or you just prefer to work in that environment, you do have the ability to do that as well, and we'll look at both of those here this morning. And there's a number of different charts to choose from, including tables, pie charts, bar charts, and more, and we'll look at a number of examples during this presentation. So who can benefit from using Atlassian Analytics? So maybe it's your individual teams looking to save time by monitoring velocity and blockers. Maybe it's your team leads wanting to optimize spend by prioritizing and allocating resources appropriately. Your executives interested in investing smarter by evaluating the impact and ROI of their team's work, enabling them to make better decisions driven by data. And then lastly, even your Atlassian admins needing to manage licensing better with access to usage trends. So that's kind of setting the stage for what we're going to present today. The first thing I'm going to do is navigate over to a demo site of Atlassian Analytics, and I want to look at a couple of examples of some fully built dashboards that we have that will hopefully get your mind moving a little bit and see how this product can be customized and what the charts can look like, and thinking about audiences as well. So we've got a couple of different examples here of some fully built dashboards that are intended to be presented to specific audiences. So the first one I'm going to click into is this initiatives dashboard. And so this is intended to be kind of a high level, 10,000 foot view of all of the initiatives in our organization, useful for executives who need that big picture view and the data related to them. So you can see there's a lot going on in this dashboard already, and I'll scroll down and we'll see even more. But we have the ability in analytics to add written content, so titles and things like that here. We've got a number of different chart types here. So we've got some single value charts on the left-hand side. We've got a funnel chart here showing initiatives by status category. And then we've got initiatives by investment type and benefit type, and those are just simple pie charts. If I scroll down a little bit, here's a couple examples of tables from Atlassian Analytics. And one thing I should mention up here too is we're able to pull our custom fields from Jira into Atlassian Analytics. So investment type and benefit type are two custom fields that we've pulled into these charts. If I scroll down a little bit, we see initiative details by status, and something you'll notice here, we've configured this issue or work item key column to actually display as a clickable hyperlink. So if I clicked on any of these, it would take me directly to that piece of work in Jira. And again, we see strategic driver here, that custom field, some Jira system fields as well, summary, status, due date, etc. And if we scroll down a little bit more, we can see initiative drill down. So we have the ability to configure drill downs in Atlassian Analytics. So we can click the value in one chart and manipulate the data in another chart. So we see in our first chart here, all open initiatives. So these are just all initiatives that are not done. If I click on one of these, so let's say this HRW 208, for example, this is going to manipulate the data in this chart, which is showing me all of the children underneath that initiative. So we see this is what's called a control, and I'll talk about those a little bit more later this morning. But that's filtering the data in this chart. So we only see the children of that HRW 208 initiative. And if I click on HRW 209, for example, now I can see the children underneath that. So this is a list of epics underneath initiatives, and these are stories or tasks that are underneath those epics. So that's one example of a fully built dashboard. Let's go back to our examples here, and we're going to look at the resource management example. So this is intended for managers or team leads who can or who need to look at issues by assignee, issues by team, the status those issues are in, and more. And we've configured some more drill downs here. So we can see in this chart issues by team. So these are just Jira teams. And if I click on webinar demo team, for example, now I can see all of the issues that are assigned to that team or have that team as a value in the team field, I should say. So the webinar demo team, 4 issues, and here are those 4 issues, and we can see the key, the summary, and the status category. If I scroll down a little bit here, we can see these charts have no data in them yet. If I click into this control and select the webinar demo team again, now we can see issues by assignee. So we can see of those 4 issues that we just looked at, who are they assigned to? And we'll give this just a second to populate. And we can see, for example, I have 2 issues assigned to me. So now if I click on the bar in this bar chart, I get a list of those 2 issues right next to the bar chart. So kind of a side-by-side comparison. We can see all the issues by assignee for this team. And then if we want to drill down by the actual assignee, we can see that list here. And again, we're pulling in some of that same information as well as story points, all of your charts, and no matter what the chart type, you can pull in whatever data you need and then manipulate that and display it how you see fit. Lastly, we see unassigned issues by team. So we can see of all of the unassigned issues, what percentage is associated with which team. So basically, there's a value in the team field, but there's not an assignee. So for example, if I click on Team Charlie, same concept, but just showing that we can configure these drill downs with several different chart types. So a bar chart, a table like we saw in the first example, pie chart, etc. And then again, I get that list of all 106 issues that are associated with Team Charlie, but are unassigned. The last example we're going to look at is the Jira admin dashboard. So again, like I mentioned, we can pull data directly related to our Atlassian tools, such as Jira, JSM, Confluence, helping our admins monitor the state of the tools and make better decisions related to the tools. So this first section, we've got just again, a high-level overview of our Atlassian products. So we see total Jira software projects, total JSM projects, total Confluence spaces, and then some averages related to those. And again, this is just a big picture view of what's going on in our products. If I scroll down a little bit, we've got a couple more drill down examples. This is our Jira software projects breakdown. So we can see the top 10 Jira software projects by issue count. And if I clicked into one of these, it'll update the data in the next chart. And you can see here as well, your drill down chart doesn't have to be a table. It could also be a pie chart or a bar chart, anything like that. So now we can see all the issues by status in that project. We can do the opposite as well. So bottom 10 Jira software projects by issue count. So we can see like this project e-commerce, for example, has one issue in it. So maybe we can make some decisions based on that data. Like, do we need these projects anymore? Could these issues be moved to a different project? And maybe we could reduce the number of projects in our instance a little bit. Having this data available is very helpful for your Jira admins. You can do the same concept with JSM, so top 10, and we could do a bottom 10 of that as well if we wanted to. We've also done that with Confluence here, so top 10 Confluence spaces by page count. And again, I could click into one of these and update the drill down chart on the right-hand side. Bottom 10 Confluence spaces by page count. Here we see a number of spaces that have a single page in them. So maybe we can eliminate those spaces altogether. Maybe these are irrelevant or nobody's using them. We can pull some other data from Confluence as well, like when a page was last updated or accessed, things like that to help you make those decisions as an admin. Lastly, we have our Atlassian system analysis. So the chart on the left is fields by issue count. So this is looking at every single field in Jira, so a system and custom fields, and pulling in the number of issues that have a value for that field. So you can see we have a number of issues that have a single issue, maybe two, things like that. So maybe we can make some decisions on our system based on this data. So do we need these custom fields? Another thing we can do in our tables is we can sort. So if I just click on the issue count column, I can sort ascending or descending. And here we can see a number of fields that have 2,746 issues that are using those fields. So we definitely want to keep those fields, maybe not the fields that only have one or two values. This chart on the right is inactive users. I'm only pulling the account IDs in here for demo purposes, but you can pull that user's first and last name and give yourself a list of all of your inactive users. Maybe you want to reduce the number of users in your instance. You could do that by pulling this data here and then removing all of those as a Jira admin. So those are just a couple examples of fully built dashboards, again, for specific use cases. Let's go back to the main page and where you will look at how our dashboards and charts are actually being populated via the Atlassian Data Lake. So like I mentioned, Atlassian Analytics connects to the Atlassian Data Lake, and it lets you choose which products and instances you want to pull data from. The data lake aggregates and stores data from Atlassian tools and connected third-party tools. You do need to be an org admin to create a data connection in analytics. So if we click in the data section up here at the top, you can see we have a couple different data sources configured. A couple of these are third-party. This one here that says Atlassian Data Lake, this is our connection to the Atlassian Data Lake. And we can see scope of data, all, we can see when it was last edited, and we could view the access to that data lake connection here. So let's click into that and we can see some more information here in the general tab. This is where we can view or change the name of this data connection. We can change some settings on the maximum query duration here as well if you need to do that. Then we can see some usage information. So we can see all of the active charts. So active meaning charts that are in dashboards that aren't archived or deleted that are using this data connection. So one thing to note is you are able to configure up to 10 connections to the Atlassian Data Lake in your analytics instance. So you can use this as kind of an audit log to see if you need to create an 11th, let's say, and you need to remove one. You could come in here and see, okay, which charts are actually using this data lake connection and do we need this anymore? Something about access to your data lake connection. So if we click on access here, we're able to control in a granular sense who can access the data within our data source if needed by selecting only specific people right here and then adding those specific users or even Jira groups to the data source access for that data source. And there's two different permissions. There's can query, which means they can view the data in charts, or can manage, which means they can manage the access and schema of this connection. I mentioned you can have up to 10 connections to the Atlassian data lake. A reason you might want to have more than one of those is that Atlassian Analytics does not respect your product level permissions. So you may be granting people access to data that they normally wouldn't or shouldn't have access to. So you're able to include or exclude specific projects, Confluence spaces, whatever you're pulling into your data lake connection, and then control the access to that data lake connection. So something to keep in mind if you have confidential or restricted data in your tools, you are going to want to perhaps make more than one data lake connection and then only give access to the people who should be able to view that data between your different connections. Speaking of connection, if we click on the connection tab, this is where we can view everything that's included in our data lake connection. So we can see here, JSM, we're including 10 projects, 94 Confluence spaces, 40 Jira projects, and so on and so forth. And your org admins would be able to edit this as well. And also, I should mention access to analytics in general is granted by your org admins. Something also to note here is that when new projects, new Confluence spaces, et cetera, are created, they will need to be added manually to the data lake connection, again, by an org admin. I'm not sure if that's on the roadmap to be updated for things to be auto connected to the data lake connections, but for now, it is a manual process. We click on schema, we can see the tables that are included in our data lake connection. There are a wide, very large number of tables available here. We can see there's 118 different tables. There's a set of them that are included by default, and then you're able to add more by just simply clicking the checkbox next to these. And then the last three tabs here, query log, queries, and change history, are more audit information, seeing when this data lake connection has had a query run against it, when it was changed, et cetera. So there's a lot of audit information in those three tabs. So let's go back to data. If we click add data source, this is how we're able to add connections to third-party tools. You can see there's a number out of the box here. There's some Amazon products, there's Databricks, some Google products, Microsoft, Snowflake, so on and so forth. And like I mentioned, the data from the data lake can be shared from analytics to third-party tools as well. But I would note that by connecting a data share directly to a third-party tool, all the data you've included in that data share will be available to anyone who has access to the data share connection. And that may, once again, provide access to data that they don't normally have access to within Atlassian tools. So do keep that in mind. The data you're pushing out, and I believe into analytics from third-party tools as well, is not going to respect permissions on either side of that share. So do be diligent in that when you're doing that, so that people don't get access to things that they should not get access to. So let's go back to our dashboards menu. Dashboards are exactly that. They're just a collection of charts, controls, content that visually display data. And here in the dashboard section, I'll just walk through the UI a little bit here. We've got a search bar here, so you can search for the dashboard that you need to access to. This dropdown is going to let you filter this list a little bit. So all dashboards created by me, you're able to star dashboards by hovering over them and just clicking the star. And then that creates a personal star to filter, much like filters in Jira or queues in JSM. This is a very similar concept. And then archived and trashed is here as well. So you are able to archive dashboards or just delete them permanently by sending them to the trash and then emptying the trash. We can also configure categories as well. So much like project categories in Jira, we can create categories for our analytics dashboards. We can see we've just got 2 here. And if I click on webinar, for example, we can see that that list is now limited to just things that are in the webinar category. Over on the right-hand side, we have some more sorting options like sort by last viewed. So that's last viewed by me or last viewed by anyone. Same concept with edited. So last edited by me or last edited by anyone. And then we can switch between list view and card view. So list view is just kind of a table view of the different dashboards. And then card view gives you a, basically a card view. So if I unfilter this, we can see some of these charts or some of these dashboards actually give us visual previews of what they are as well in the card view. So that can help you actually locate the dashboard that you need to access. So pretty simple UI. We are able to create our own templates in Atlassian Analytics as well. I'll show you that in just a little bit, but you can manage the templates here in this Manage Templates button. And then dashboards can be created a couple of different ways. There's basically two different buttons. This Create button up at the top, if we click the drop down, we can just create a simple chart or a single chart or an entire dashboard, or we can just click Create Dashboard. Once we've done that, there are a couple of different options here. So we can create a blank dashboard by just selecting blank and then clicking Create. You can import using JSON files. So if you want to export a dashboard from another analytics instance, you can import it using this function, and it's very straightforward and very simple. Or we can use one of the templates. I mentioned that there's a lot of different templates in Atlassian Analytics. So let's select Use a Template, and then I'll click Select. And now we've got basically all of the Atlassian created templates, and then there's also created by my organization. So you can see I've created two template dashboards here where I could spin this up using this template and then make customizations that won't affect the template. But in the Atlassian created template section, there's a couple of filtering options as well. So if you have more than one data source, you can select that here. You can also filter this by product. So they've got Confluence specific templates, Jira specific, and Jira Service Management specific. And you can see a visual preview and you can see a description of what these templates are as well. So I'm going to close out of this and I'm going to go back to my webinar category, and I'm going to choose the resource management dashboard again, and we're going to talk through the UI of the actual dashboard. So I know I showed some of this a little bit already, but let's actually go through this and learn what all of this stuff does. So at the top here is the title of the dashboard. I can click in here to change it if I need to do that. I can also copy a link to the dashboard right here by just simply hovering over this icon and clicking on it. And now I have copied that link. If I go to the right-hand side here, I can see when the chart data was last updated. If I want to manually refresh that, I can just click this refresh icon and it'll refresh to the best of its ability what it's pulling from the Atlassian data lake. You can also star the dashboard again directly from the dashboard itself. You can copy the dashboard, and then something I really like to show is this presentation mode. So basically, it just expands the dashboard a little bit and utilizes the entire width of your monitor. So if you're presenting this in a meeting or on a call, something like that, you can utilize all of your real estate on your monitor by just clicking into the presentation mode. So that's it for dashboards. Let's talk about charts now. So dashboards consist of charts, and dashboards are just visualizations, or excuse me, charts are just visualizations of data. Much like our dashboards, Atlassian has many chart templates. If I come over here to the right-hand side and just click on chart, here's how I can create a chart. I've got a search bar here again where I can search for the chart I need. I can also filter by product again, so Jira products, Jira Service Management, etc. If you click on one of these templates, you'll get a visual preview here on the right-hand side. So again, I think this is really helpful to help you decide which of these templates you would like to use. or I can click on custom chart to just create a chart from scratch. So I'm not going to create a chart now because we've got several already created, but if I did want to, I would just click go to chart editor and start to build or customize that custom chart. If I choose a template, I just place it directly on the dashboard, and then I can make edits if I need to. So let's click into, or actually let's show some more chart functionality just from the dashboard itself. So if I hover over a chart, for example, you can see there's a few more buttons that popped up in the right-hand corner of this chart. So Insights, this is powered by Atlassian Intelligence, and Atlassian Intelligence can be utilized in a couple of different ways in Atlassian Analytics. We've got a whole video on that on our YouTube page. But if I click on Insights, Atlassian Intelligence is going to analyze the chart and give me some written analysis of it. So we can see here, Team Charlie has the highest issue count at 111, indicating potential workload or process challenges, and so on and so forth. So it's basically reviewed the data in this chart and explaining it to me. And I can give some feedback to Atlassian if this is a good response or a bad response. Anytime you see that response opportunity, I do recommend you use it. Atlassian does take that feedback very seriously. So I do recommend you provide that feedback to them. Our next option is to comment on this chart. So I can click show comments here, and it looks like I added a comment here back in May. This functions a lot like comments in, let's say, a PowerPoint or a Google Doc, something like that, where it's sort of a chain and you can resolve a comment by clicking on resolve, or you can edit or delete or even copy a link to that. And I could say, just sent this to you, let me know if you need anything else, and click reply. And now we've got a whole comment thread on this particular chart. We can copy a link directly to this chart. And if we click on more actions, we can edit the chart itself. We can edit some settings for the chart. So like the title and the labels on the axes, etc., are in the edit settings area. We can copy the chart, move it, delete it, refresh the chart data, review the performance, download the chart, or another thing I really like for presentations is expand. So you can kind of drill in and expand the chart to, again, the entire width of your monitor. So if you've got a table with several columns and you want to show this in a stand up or a meeting or something, you can do that by just simply clicking on expand in your chart. So let's look a little bit at the chart configuration now. So I'll click on more actions again, and I will click on edit chart. And this is going to be how this chart is actually configured. So how is it pulling the data? Is it manipulating the data at all? Is it being filtered, etc.? And this is a pretty simple chart, but the idea here is to really highlight this chart configuration kind of mode and get familiar with the windows and everything that we're seeing here. So I mentioned at the top that there's two configuration modes. There's the visual query mode, which I like to liken to like a JQL search in Jira. It kind of works in a similar kind of functionality. But there's also the SQL mode. So if I click from visual to SQL, we can see here it's actually showing me the SQL query that the visual mode is sort of akin to, and I can make some updates to that query here if I'd like to. Within this, you can also utilize Atlassian Intelligence again. So I can click on this button and give Atlassian Intelligence just a natural language prompt, and then it will write a SQL query for me. I do recommend if you're going to use that, the more specific you can be, the better with that. But we'll go back to the visual mode, and visual is just it's a codeless interface. It can be used to create your queries basically by adding the columns from the tables in the data lake that you need, and then the additional filters you might need as well. So the way you're going to build these is you're going to start by choosing the columns that you need. So in this case, we're choosing the issue ID column. from the issue table, and then we are choosing the team name column here. So you're going to choose the columns that you need. If you need to add an additional column, you simply click Add Column, and then we can see there's several different categories of the tables that are in the data lake. So we can see Jira family of products. So these are tables that apply to more than one product. We've got Jira specific tables. We've got JSM specific tables, Confluence, and then organizational data. So this is how I was pulling those account IDs earlier in our previous example. Each column that you add can have a group and aggregate function applied. So you can see here for issue ID, we've configured it to be the count of unique function, but there's also group, count of all, minimum, maximum, etc. These basically are going to dictate how that column's data is displayed in your result table. And the options that you'll have will be slightly different depending on the column that you're pulling in. I think these two are pretty much the same. But if you pull in some other columns like date-related columns or time-related columns, you have some additional functions that might be available. If you want to remove one of these, you just click the X next to it as well. And then over here in the filters section, this is where I would add a filter. And this is really where I see the comparison to writing a JQL query. So we can add filter. So we could say something like issue type is one of, is not one of, equals, does not equal. We could say equals, for example, and then we could to give it a second to load all the available values. So these are all the issue types that are in our instance. We could say issue type equals epic, and then now we've got a filter added to our chart. You can add as many of those as you want, and these can be either and statements on top of each other, or they can be or statements. Again, very similar to writing a JQL query. So I'm not going to save that filter. Once I've got this the way I want it, I would click Run Query. And then it's going to pull that same data because we haven't changed anything. But now all of that data is in my result table down here at the bottom. We can see those two columns I've pulled in, the team name, and then the count of unique issue ID. I could rename these as well to something that maybe makes a little bit more sense for my audience once I've configured this. Also, you can add multiple queries to your charts. So this one just has one query where it's called query one. If I wanted to add an additional query over here at the bottom, I would just click add query. I could either copy the existing one or make one from scratch. And that can be useful if you're adding data from multiple sources or need to apply different filters to specific slices of data. You can do that with multiple queries. And I believe we have a video on that on YouTube as well. If that hasn't been posted already, it will be relatively soon. Here in this window is our kind of chart preview. So we can see the name of the chart, how this is going to be displayed. Right now we've selected a table, but on the right-hand side, we have many other chart type options to choose from. This button at the top, Auto, if you click this, Analytics is going to look at your result table and decide what it thinks the best chart would be for the data that you've pulled into your result table. But then we've got many other options here. Sometimes your result table won't meet the specific criteria for a specific chart type, and those options would be kind of grayed out. But we can see here, I could change this to, let's say, a pie chart, and it'll give me a preview of that here, and we can see what that's been configured to be. I could change the colors and change the legend and the placement and things like that once I've chosen this chart type, for example. Maybe I would like to see this as a bar chart instead. I can click on bar, and then I can see what that's going to look like on my dashboard. And the list goes on and on. You can see here, like single value, for example, I have two columns, so I can't use the single value chart. And if I click on this, Atlassian Analytics is going to tell me why I can't use that. So the result table of the last step must have exactly one column and exactly one row. So I don't have that, so I can't use that. And then last thing we can do on our result table, we won't get into a deep dive on these, but we do go through these in our analytics quick start course, is all these additional functions we can apply to our data. So we can create formula columns, or we can add formulas directly to our existing columns if you need to do some math or manipulate your data. You can reorder the columns, you can sort them, add additional group and aggregate functions, additional filtering, limiting rows, bucketing data, etc. There are a number of additional functions you can add to finish customizing your chart. Let's go back to table really quickly. And over here in the settings cog, I can access the chart settings, or I can do this from the chart on the dashboard when I click the three dots and just click edit settings. Let's go into the chart settings. These are also going to vary a little bit depending on which chart type you have chosen. So for the table, it's relatively straightforward. We can change the title font size. We can give this a subtitle. So if I just type subtitle example here, for example, it will add that to the preview here, and I can see what that's going to look like. And maybe I don't want that, I'll just remove it. You can change the subtitles font size here as well. There's some other options for the table you can choose here. There's some formatting options for numbers and things like that. You can change the text to be different colors, bold, italic, etc. And then we saw those drill downs earlier. This is where that would actually be configured within the chart settings. So again, we won't go through that today, but we do have a video on YouTube, I believe, that goes through drill downs. So I would encourage you to watch that. And then let's convert this to a pie chart again really quickly, and I'll show you that the settings are slightly different. So now we can change the legend, for example, the placement. So maybe I don't want it on the right, I'd rather have it on the left. And I can see what that's going to look like. I can change the colors. So I could say use custom colors, and then I could change all the colors for my various data points. So a lot of customized options you can add to your charts once you have pulled in the data, filtered it the way you want it. That's really the last step, I think, in my mind, is configuring the actual visualization and customizing that. So I'm just going to cancel out of this. We talked a little bit about controls already, and controls are the next menu over here on the right-hand side. They can be connected to one or more charts to filter the data. They're interactive elements that can change the way the data looks on a dashboard. And they also allow for multiple users to use the same dashboard, but display the data in a way that is contextually relevant to them. There are a number of different control types. We mostly looked at drop downs today, but there's date associated ones like date slider and calendar. And there's text input, range input, and so on and so forth. We've got a couple examples of those down here again. So again, this is a simple drop down control, and I can select one of our teams here and then manipulate the data that's in this chart. So webinar demo team is going to look a little bit different than Team Charlie, for example. And we can see that here. It's a different set of assignees. So that's the idea, is the controls can, number one, manipulate the data in a chart, and number two, allow multiple users to use the same chart. And these are actually added as filters in the chart's configuration. So in that filters section, you would configure this so that this control is manipulating a data point within that chart. So over here on the right-hand side, after control, we've got content. So this is where we can add our written content. So I'll click this and I'll get this new window, and I'll bring it down here and just choose a placement for this. And this is a lot like a paragraph style field in Jira, or editing content in Confluence. You can format your text with headers, bold, italics, all the normal formatting options. You can change your text color. You can add bullet lists and numbers lists. And then you've even got some of this, these options here, like you can make an info panel, which you're no doubt familiar with if you've used Confluence at all. You can change the layout to use sections by using this. You can add links and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of awesome content formatting options here. And also images. So you can click on image and then find an image from your organization, maybe your organization's branding, or maybe a logo, something like that, and add that to your chart by simply clicking on image. We can add comments not only to individual charts, but we can add them to the dashboard as a whole by clicking on comments and saying, this dashboard looks great, and click reply. And this is not exactly the same as commenting on a dashboard. It's not really a thread that needs to be resolved, but you can edit or delete that comment directly from the comments section here. And over on the right-hand side again, we've got some more options. So we can click on export to export our dashboard as a PDF if we want to embed it in an email or something like that. We can export it as a CSV if we want just the raw data. And I talked about the JSON import export a little bit earlier, and this is where you would do that by simply exporting that as JSON. We've got some share settings here. So this is where we can control access to the dashboard. So one note is that your users who have access to analytics will not necessarily have access to all dashboards by default. So the process is that access to analytics is going to be granted by an org admin, and then each dashboard can be customized in terms of its accessibility by granting this to either anyone with access to analytics, which we see here, or you can select only specific people. And we saw how to do that with our data connections earlier, and this is pretty similar to that as well. So if you have selected only specific people, you can either add an individual or a group. So I can choose one of my colleagues, for example, and add her. And then I can give her one of three permissions. So we have can view, which means she'll be able to view and interact with the dashboard. She can change the values and controls, add comments, and even download the dashboard. Then there's can edit, which means she would be able to edit the dashboard and its settings, add, edit charts, controls, and content, and rearrange the dashboard, and then access some of the menus in the settings area that we're looking at right now. And then can manage is the highest level, which gives her access to manage all of the settings within the dashboard. So I'll just say can view for now and click add. If I want to send an email notification, I could have checked this box. And now Vicky's added to this dashboard and she will be able to view it. Next to the Access tab is the Subscriptions tab. So much like a filter in Jira, we can configure subscriptions for our dashboard and send scheduled reports to keep our team updated on the dashboard's data, keep our stakeholders informed without requiring them to log into analytics. And we can do that by simply clicking Add Subscription. So we would give it a name, give it a frequency, so daily, weekly, monthly, and then choose the hour of the day that that's sent. We can choose the default values for the controls in our chart. So we can see we've got 4 controls here. We could give it a default value here for this subscription. So you can tailor your subscription to specific teams or specific users. The format, are we sending it as a PDF, a CSV, or both? And you can include an inline image in the email if you'd like to. And then you would simply just add the recipients here and click add. And that is a great way to keep people updated, again, on your dashboards without having to require them to log all the way into analytics. They can just get it right in their inbox. The activity section is going to be where we can view, export, and search the activity log of the dashboard. So we're going to see everything that's happened on this dashboard over the last 365 days or 1 year in the past. And it just kind of functions as an audit log for your dashboard. And then we kind of skipped over these 2 menus, so I'll just go back to them really quickly. The General tab is where we can, or rather, it's also where we can change the title. We can add a description. You can actually customize the URL as well. So if you have organizational standards for URLs for your tools, you can change this here. It's basically everything after analytics slash that we can see here. So everything that's kind of bolded. Or just make it simpler for people. This out of the box URL might not be something you like. You can change it to whatever you want. This is where we can also choose the category for the dashboard, and we can create a new category by simply typing in here and saying new category. And then once I save this, we would have a new category. You can make some conversions to time zones for your users if you would like to. And then you can also configure some settings for data freshness. I see most organizations just leaving these settings as is, but if you want to manipulate those, you can do that here in the general tab. Then lastly, the controls tab is where this is basically a comprehensive list of all of the controls that are configured in the dashboard. So we can see the names and the types. We can see the current values that are selected. So 3 of these controls do not have a value selected currently. We can also highlight connections. I think this is really helpful for auditing your dashboard. If you've got a lot of stuff on it and you're not sure if your controls are really even doing anything, you can click highlight connections and it'll actually highlight the control itself and the charts that are connected to it. So we can see all of that highlighted in orange here. If we go back to our settings and controls again, we can also edit or delete our controls here, or we can mass reset the values within all of the controls from the controls section. Lastly, I talked about the templates earlier. You can click Publish as Template here, and this is how we can create our own custom templates. And all you have to do is give it a title and a description, and then your users will be able to create their own dashboards from your custom template. So again, if you've got a great team level chart that another team would like to create their own chart and maybe hard code their filters into the chart, and then they can just all navigate to their own dashboards, you can do that by publishing as a template. And the last thing I want to show before we'll try and have a little bit of time for Q&A is if I navigate here to, oh, I think I grabbed the wrong link actually. Let me grab this link really quickly. We can actually embed our dashboards into Confluence pages. So you can see here that Jira admin dashboard again, I've embedded into this Confluence page. And this is fully interactive as well. So I can click on my charts and use my drill downs, and I can manipulate the values in my controls and things like that. So if you want to store this in a Confluence page or present it to users in Confluence, you can do that. One thing to note, though, is that your users are still going to need access to analytics to view the data, even via Confluence. So just having Confluence access is not going to be enough for this functionality to work properly. Your users will also need analytics access. So that was a lot in a short amount of time. I'm going to check the chat here really quickly and see if there are any questions. I see one question, are there API endpoints to get a list of all dashboards, get the properties of a specific dashboard, etc.? I'm not 100% sure on that, but that's something we can research. I think the answer is yes, but I'm not 100% confident on that. So we'll take that as a takeaway to research, and our moderator will put my email address in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me on email, or she'll also put my LinkedIn in there and we can connect there and I can help answer that question there. But definitely feel free to shoot me an email and we can discuss that further. And then I see another question in the drill down. Can you select more than one value? I don't know through the process of actually clicking like clicking on a value in a chart to manipulate the control for the drill down. I think that's just going to be a one value, but that is a great question in your controls. You can configure those to allow for more than one value. So let's click into this control, for example. This is pulling the assignee's name column. we can actually manipulate this to be a multiple select control. So that way we can have more than one value in there. So maybe it's project key or issue type, or in this case, assignee name. We can choose multiple select, and then that would allow us to have multiple assignees in that control. And then I see one more question. Would love to see the details of the Atlassian admin dashboard. Let me go back to that really quickly, and I can show just a little bit of that. And let's just choose any of these charts. So we'll say top 10 Jira software projects by issue count, and we'll look at the details here. So this is configured using the count of unique issue keys. So that's one of our columns, and then the name of the, I think that's project name. Yep, that's project name. So we're grouping by project name. And then I'm only pulling in the project type equals software. So you could remove this filter and then look at all of your projects across all of your products. So that would include JSM, and I think that would include Jira Product Discovery as well. And then because I only want to see the top 10 projects here, I'm actually limiting the rows in my table to 10. So something that's cool too when you add your functions to after your queries is you can click on the query and see the raw data it's pulling in. So in this case, we can see there's 40 projects it's pulling in. Then I've sorted that. So if you click on any of these actions, you can see your result table change. And so if I click on limit rows to 10 rows, right now, again, we're seeing all 40 of those projects. But if I click on this, now we only see 10. And you can kind of step through all of your steps to see how your result table is being updated. So great question. I'd be happy to share more information and details on that admin dashboard with you as well. Again, feel free to reach out to me after this webinar, and I would be happy to show you some more stuff. So, all right, we went through our demo. We've done some questions. We've got about 2 minutes left here. Did want to again plug that Atlassian Analytics Quick Start course. It's about a half-day deep dive course on analytics. We do it every 6 weeks or so, maybe every 2 months. Our next one is going to be on August 13th from 9 a.m. to noon Central. And it's a hands-on course. You'll get access to an Atlassian demo site. We'll build charts and dashboards from templates and from scratch. We'll create custom queries. We'll learn how to visualize our data, how to collaborate, create and manage dashboards, and we'll do all of that using the visual mode. So it's a good course. I do recommend checking that out. Head over to valiantys.com/training, and you can get all the details on that. And it looks like there's even a discount code in the chat for you. So you might want to utilize that. And then lastly, if you want to connect with me on anything related to Atlassian Analytics or anything else in the Atlassian ecosystem, feel free to send me an email, reach out to me on LinkedIn, connect with me there. Would love to hear from you and help you with any questions you might have on your Atlassian tools. And then also check out our YouTube page again. We've got a lot of content on everything in the Atlassian ecosystem. So not just analytics, Jira, JSM, Confluence, JPD, Jira Align, you name it, we've got content related to it. So do check us out there. And yeah, I just want to say thanks to everybody for attending today. I hope you enjoyed this course. I hope you got a thorough overview of Atlassian Analytics, and hopefully you've got a vision of how this could be a useful tool for your team or organization. Again, any additional comments, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. And thanks again for joining. Have a great day.